What good folks, it's Dark319 and welcome back to another What If, and I believe this is What If Naruto Was Apocalypse Part 3, so do me a favor and like, comment, subscribe and share the video, but besides all that, enjoy the video. Chapter 3 Evolution begins. The metal orbs landed in the deep forest of Wave Country, as the boy once known as Uzumaki Naruto, now renamed Apocalypse, landed in the clearing, and opened the orbs to let everyone out. When the former shinobi of the leaf got out, they wondered where they were and saw the ground beneath them was actually made of metal disguised as dirt. In an instant, the metal ground next to their host warped into a door, and Apocalypse made a hand motion for them to follow. "What do you think? Should we follow?" said Tenten, as she was a bit fearful to walking into a trap, and saw everyone wondering the same thing. Well, except Hinata, as she had already made it to the door, and ignored Kurenai calling out to the Hyuga girl when they saw her enter the passageway. "That answers our question," said Anko, as she rushed in with Kurenai to get Hinata, and the others following in the process. When the group went down the long passageway to the other side, the entrance they went through closed behind them, and the fear they had doubled instantly. They had no way to retreat if this was a trap, and they had no idea how to defeat someone that could invade their minds or manipulate the metal around them into stabbing weapons. "You shouldn't be nervous. I'm not here to hurt you. I've made that point quite clear since you all came to the meeting point," said Apocalypse, as he saw them calm down a bit, but the suspicions of him were still there, and they decided to keep their guard up just in case. "Welcome home, Apocalypse-sama," said Haku, as she appeared through an ice mirror, and bowed to the young boy while ignoring the looks of surprise from the jounin in the room. "Thank you, Haku. Have the sleeping quarters for our guest been prepared like I asked?" said Apocalypse, as he saw the girl nod her head, and saw the young boy smile at her. "Each room for everyone, as per your instructions, Apocalypse-sama," said Haku, as she felt his hand on her shoulder, and had to suppress the heat that wanted to rise to her face. "Good. Please show them each of them their rooms while I prepare for our defense," said Apocalypse, as the ceiling above him parted into a circular hole, and he went through it to take care of the annoying root forces that had been following him. "Defense? From what?" said Choji, as he along with the others followed Haku through the metal home of Apocalypse, and saw the girl look over her shoulder at them. "Not from what, but rather from whom?" said Haku, as she showed them a row of rooms now, and each one had a name over it for the intended person. "These are our rooms for sleeping in?" said Ino, as she saw the list of names above the doors, and saw Haku nod. "Yes. Do take a look inside to inspect them. Apocalypse-sama's room is down here next to mine and Tuya-san's," said Haku, as she saw them give her a look of surprise, and wondered who this other girl was. "Above Apocalypse's lair, where did they go?" said the Rudanbu, as he looked around, and saw nothing that would give away that the boy had been here. "Fan out. Once we find the location of the base, we need to report back to Danzo-sama, and prepare for the necessary attack force," said the Rudanbu captain, as he looked around, and felt something was off. "Your master is fool," said Apocalypse, as the metal in the ground came out, piercing the Rudanbu while disabling the Rudanbu captain by only piercing the man's limbs. "You won't get me to talk, monster," said the Rudanbu captain, as he looked up at this boy, who took his Onbu mask off, and grabbed his head in a painful grip. "I don't have to. The seal on your tongue won't let you reveal secrets about Danzo from your mouth, but it doesn't protect you from my mental powers, and you will tell me what I want to know before I end your life," said Apocalypse, as he entered the man's mind without restraint, and pillaged all the information the man had come across while serving Danzo. The only thing the root shinobi could do was scream out in agony without another soul in the area to hear him. And it was in that time frame that Apocalypse learned a very disturbing truth about what happened to his mother the night she brought him into this world and sent a fury through his body that would not be soon forgotten throughout the elemental countries. Down below, moments later, Apocalypse descended down to him underground home, as he had a look on his face that spoke of a cold fury, and to run the hell away from him should you cross his path. He entered the room with Cerebro in it before putting the helmet on to locate the woman that was to have raised him and had come to the belief that she had died shortly after his birth. As he scanned the Leaf Village, Apocalypse found that certain areas underground were being blocked by some kind of seals that prevented one's life force from being detected, and the same could be said for hiding the minds of others in that room. Frowning at this blockade in front of him, Naruto increased Cerebro's power to full, and smashed through those seal barriers until all the life signs within those areas were made known to him. He scanned each mind looking for his long-lost mother, as she was taken from him shortly after his birth, and made it look like she had died bringing him into this world. He knew this because it was in a report that Danzo had, which the Rudanbu captain had gotten a hold of while looking through records for the old birdfucker, and caught the moment in the tool's memories. "Mother, where are you? Show me you are here." Reach out with your mind and call out the name of your son with all the strength you possess. Thought Apocalypse, as he now scanned through each area, and hoped his mother heard him. Naruto, said the echoing voice of a tired woman, as she was weak from her time spent in this dungeon she had been placed in shortly after giving birth to her son, and wished to hold in her arms. Opening his eyes wider, Apocalypse focused on the echo of the woman's pain, and her voice so he could lock onto her mind. Within moments, he found the woman that was his mother, restrained in a small room with possibly no privacy, and saw she had signs of being tortured. Mother, said Naruto telepathically, as he reached out to the woman, and let her know that the son she had been denied still lived. Naruto? My son. Where are you? Said Kushina through this telepathic link, as she had felt his presence in her head, and knew this wasn't some sick genjutsu done by Danzo to make her suffer. Uzumaki Kushina's instincts never failed her, and this was one of those times the woman's instincts were correct. In Wave Country. Much has happened to me since I was born, mother, and not for the better either. I am not what I once was when you brought me into this world, said Apocalypse while deep inside, the boy was feeling an emotion he had not felt in years, and it went by the name of fear. Fear that his mother would reject him. Fear she would look upon what her son had become and call him a monster. Let me be the judge of that, Naruto-kun, said Kushina, as she knew her son would fear that she would hate him just like Danzo had told her the village had countless times in the past, and how her son would be his weapon one way or another. Kushina had no intention of failing her son. Very well. I will get you out and take you away from the leaf, said Naruto, as he ended the connection, and rose from his chair before leaving the room with his crimson helmet now back on his face. Ah, Apocalypse-sama. I've been looking for you, said Kabuto, as he appeared with a smile on his face, and you could tell the young spy had important information for him. Tell me what you have on your mind, Kabuto, while we walk. I have no time to read your thoughts on the matter, and I'm in a hurry, said Apocalypse, as he saw Kabuto nod, and was now walking with the young boy. I have been gathering information within Konoha after you left and have learned that while your the Yondaime made your demands public, that Danzo has been plotting to usurp them. The Warhawk and his allies within Konoha that are on both of the councils have already taken the Uchiha out of the hospital before faking his death. They set it up as a hospital accident so they could train him Danzo's root program and make him surpass Itachi while remaining loyal to them, said Kabuto, as he saw his master frown, and growl in an animalistic fashion before turning to glare at the older boy. Find out where Sasuke is being held and kill him, said Apocalypse, as he was not about to have that boy become a nuisance to his plans, and was not about to have the councils go against him in some form. Of course, Apocalypse-sama, said Kabuto, as he saw the look of cold fury on the young boy's face, and knew that he should act on his orders right away. Where are you going, Naruto-kun? Said Hinata, as she saw him walking with a heavy stride, and stopped when she called him by his original name. I need to take care of a very personal matter, Hinata. When I return from this, however, there is someone that I want you, and the others to meet, so have them meet us in the main living area, said Apocalypse, as he turned to look at Hinata with gentle eyes, and then he teleported out of the area. He seems to be under a lot of pressure recently, said Tuya, as she came out of her room, and saw Hinata looking at her carefully. You must be Tuya-san, said Hinata, as she had never seen the girl, and had a certain thing about her that the Hyuga heiress could see may have a certain charm that Naruto may like. And you are the Hyuga girl that has a mean crush on him after he saved you from that asshole from Kumo, said Tuya, as she saw the girl blush, and look away at the, in her mind, embarrassing fact she had a crush on her hero. How did why you find out? Said Hinata, as she didn't tell anyone, and hoped it wouldn't be common knowledge to the others. Everyone knows about the incident from Kumo. Orochimaru found out about it and left the report of what his spies found out on his desk with me glancing at it. In all honest, if it wasn't for that incident, the asshole of a snake would have done it himself, and would have turned you into one of his prized experiments, said Tuya, as she knew that the Sannin had hated the fact the Kumo ambassador pulled that little stunt, and doubled if not tripled Konoha's security. Do you know where Apocalypse-sama is heading? Said Hinata, as she was told to call him by his new name now when in front of people, and nearly failed at doing that. No. But wherever he going, I wouldn't want to be the fuckers that made him angry, and steer clear of him, said Tuya, as she saw Hinata look worried, and felt a bit, jealous would be the proper term? Konoha underground tunnels. Apocalypse was filled with untold anger when he arrived back at Konoha, and the people that saw him ran in terror while calling for the Leaf Shinobi to do something. Some of the shinobi did, but were struck down with a few quick strikes by the young Namikaze due to the boy's metal claws, and instantly tore down the door leading to the entrance of the base hidden beneath the village. Levitating off the ground while moving with a purpose, Apocalypse encountered several root shinobi, who were all crushed against walls, or sliced to pieces by the fury that had swelled deep within his heart. He easily sensed his mother, waiting for him to rescue her so they could be a family like they should have been, and make up for lost time. Naruto. Naruto, said Minato from behind with Yugao's Anbu and Tsunade behind him. Stay out of this. I am here for the one person and one person only, said Apocalypse, as he tore the last door off his hinges, and saw the people in the room looking like they had been in hell. And his mother looking up at him with tears in her eyes. Naruto, said Kushina, as she knew her son would save her, and here he was doing what he said he would. Mother, said Apocalypse, as he took off his helmet, and let it fall to the floor before he went over to her weakened body. Kushina? But, I thought that, said Minato, as he had been told by the Sandaime that she died, and the hospital staff records confirmed it. You were deceived. The instant you left with me to seal away Kyuubi inside my body, Danzo abducted my mother, and set things in motion in order for the third to hand me over to him, said Apocalypse, as tore off his mother's chain, and picked her up with the woman clinging to him as if he was all that gave her life. Naruto, give her to me. I'm the best medic in all of the elemental countries. I need to see how severe her injuries are, said Tsunade, as she walked over to the boy, who looked at her, and then back his mother whimpering his name. Put your hand on my shoulder, Tsunade, and I'll teleport us to the hospital in an instant, said Apocalypse, as he called his helmet back to his head, and saw the woman nod before the three of them left in a flash of crimson. Konoha Hospital. Moments later, Tsunade looked over her patient with delicate care, as she was appalled by the way this woman was treated, but was glad the woman would make a full recovery, and had no permanent damage done. Kushina had also been looked over head to toe for any kind of seals Danzo may have placed on the poor woman, and even check her mouth, since the red-haired woman's son had told them about the root shinobi having seals on their tongues. How is she? Said Minato, as he saw his son in the corner looking at his mother with the utmost concern mixing with hatred at the leaf for screwing him over, and the Namikaze knew it was taking a great deal of self-control to not tear this village apart. Kushina's been beaten too many times to have an actual number given how many years it's been since it started. She's been whipped ruthlessly upon her back, and from what she's told me before slipping unconscious they hit her with several genjutsu showing Naruto being attacked by villagers to break her spirit, said Tsunade, as she had Naruto deal with his mother's mind while she handled the healing of her body, and had to apologize to the Uzumaki for not being there for her son. Kushina understood, as Naruto had told her about how Jiraiya and the Sandaime had all conspired to keep the slug princess away from the boy so he could stay in the village. She was also infuriated that Minato had used their son to seal Kyuubi away despite her pleas she gave him, and told him how the boy would always be hated no matter what. When I find Danzo, I'm going to destroy him, and every single base of operations he has in the leaf, said Minato, as he clenched his fists, and saw the magnetic energy around his son giving off his own hatred for the old war hawk. When can she be ready to move? Said Apocalypse, as he saw Tsunade look at him like he was crazy, and then at an equally shocked Minato. Move? Naruto, it's a miracle that she's even alive right now, and to even consider moving her without constant medical care would surely kill her, said Tsunade, as she saw Naruto narrow his eyes at her, and was worried that he would hate her like he did the rest of the leaf. She is not staying in the leaf. My mother will be used as a hostage to keep me in line, and I will not be Konoha's weapon. You will be with her the entire time, Tsunade-san, and will be her main doctor from this point on until she recovers. As for moving my mother, I am more than prepared to do it now with you beside her during the trip, and I will not be denied a second time, said Apocalypse, as the wall with the window was smashed open, and a metal orb opened ready to take the two women out of Konoha. It's not that simple. If you move her now, even with me beside her keeping your mother alive, I can't guarantee she will survive the trip, and could die before we get to wherever it is you're taking us, said Tsunade, as she continued healing Kushina with Shizune, and both women were trying not to look at the glowing eyes of the still infuriated Namikaze boy. And you think keeping her here is better? You have 3 hours to make her ready to travel, and I want you, my dear father, to make sure that nothing happens to her until that time, said Apocalypse, as he left in a flash of crimson, and Minato wondered what it was that his son was going to do now. Secret Root Training Facility. Danzo looked over the Uchiha lying in the bed with the boy having his newly reattached arm back and the scowl to match it. The boy wanted, or rather demanded, an explanation on what had happened regarding that boy who took his arm off while wielding all that power like it was the easiest thing in the world. Danzo of course told the boy about Naruto, how the Namikaze had evolved into a being of unsurpassable power, and loved how the Uchiha scowled at him at that last part. The spoiled child had demanded that he be trained to surpass the Yondaime's son, and Danzo of course agreed after the boy healed entirely so the maximum amount of training could be done. I want to know every jutsu, every skill, and everything you can teach me about being a shinobi so I can kill this so-called son of the Yondaime to prove an Uchiha will always be superior, said Sasuke, as he was hungry for power, and Danzo was going to give it to him to achieve his goal. Of course. But as I just told you Sasuke-kun, it won't be possible unless you rest, and let your body heal properly. If you don't, then your body will be weakened, and unable to kill Itachi much less the Yondaime's son, said Danzo, as he saw the Uchiha scowl even further, and looked away from the war hawk like a child being denied a cookie before dinner. As if the Yondaime's bastard child could stop a pure-blooded Uchiha, said Sasuke in a mumble while Danzo himself stayed silent at that before leaving the room to make plans. Moments later, another figure entered silently, and with a syringe in his hand that held a mysterious liquid that held unknown properties of doom for the Uchiha. How the mighty Uchiha clan has fallen, thought Kabuto, as he saw Sasuke still looking away from the door, and was no doubt thinking it was no doubt the root shinobi sent to guard him from escaping. Tell your master I don't care for anyone to watch me. Go wait outside and let me rest you mindless tool, said Sasuke, as he had his eyes closed, and fidgeted a bit from the restraints that kept him tied to the bed. Mindless tool? Ah! I was going to make this painless Uchiha Sasuke, but now I'm feeling very sadistic, and cruel in terms of ending your life, thought Kabuto, as he was planning to put the liquid in the boy's forepouch, and let it work that way. However, if the boy wanted to think of himself as untouchable, then let it be Sasuke's arrogance that becomes the final nail on his coffin, and ending his life. Without warning, Kabuto stabbed Sasuke in the neck, and sent the liquid into the boy's veins before leaving the room so he wouldn't be spotted by any of Danzo's goons. As for Sasuke, the boy was now convulsing horribly on his bed, and the monitors watching over his progress of recovering from his injuries now beeped in an alarming fashion. The ever-desperate attempt to scream out was being denied by his throat constricting in a choking fashion, and Sasuke was finding his heart felt like it was on fire. What Sasuke didn't know about the liquid he was injected with was actually a venomous toxin that took the life of the person it was injected into in a painful fashion. Unless you were a demon vessel, the chance of surviving it was slim to none, with more emphasis on the none, and there was no antidote to the toxin. What hurt even more if Sasuke were to learn all the effects of the toxin in terms of the boy's loins was that the liquid gave the Uchiha instant sterility within seconds of being injected. Even when the root shinobi medic nins rushed into the room trying to save the Uchiha, the efforts to try were futile, and the last thing the boy saw was Danzo yelling at his men to do something that he couldn't hear clearly before darkness finally took him. Uchiha Sasuke was now officially dead. The Hokage's office, the Sandaime sighed, as he looked over everything that had happened since Naruto's return as this new being, and calling himself Apocalypse. The very name sent shivers down his old spine, as he never suspected things would come to this, and wondered what awaited him when he died. Sure, the old Kage knew he was going to hell, but what level of it, the oldest member of the Sarutobi clan didn't know, and had an idea it was most likely somewhere between the 8th or 9th. Thinking of the place where you are going to go after you die? Said Apocalypse, as he saw the old Kage nearly jump out of his chair, and have the well-deserved heart attack. And Naruto I was ACK, said the Sandaime, as he tried to explain everything, but couldn't when his body suddenly had a spasm, and felt like he was having a stroke. Funny thing about all the metallic properties in one's own blood Sarutobi. With just the right amount of manipulation, I can make you have a stroke, seizure, and a heart attack all in one while keeping you alive days. Maybe even weeks. Do you know what it's like, old man, to just beg for sweet death to take you while being buried alive, and hearing the people burying you saying this was the closest you will get to a decent burial? I did. I still remember wishing to die, but something inside told me to live on, and at the time I thought dying would be so much easier. Then I had a revelation that made me endure everything until I was taken away, and that was when I was strong enough, I would destroy the leaf with my own 2 hands, said Apocalypse, as he saw the old Kage clutching his chest, and crying out slightly in pain. D. Destroy the L leaf? B. But UT told me, said the Sandaime, but couldn't finish his sentence, and was now trying to survive the pain Naruto was inflicting upon his being. What? That my dream was to be the Hokage? Do you really think after all that crap the people put me through that I would want to be Hokage of this village? It's like saying they were right in hurting me and to rule over them like nothing ever happened is not my idea of being even with them. No. This village will burn to the ground, dying in a dishonorable fashion forged by the very sinners it holds, said Apocalypse, as he could never forgive the Sandaime for betraying his trust when he was still an innocent child, and the leaf for betraying his family for their own arrogant desires. I'm sorry, and Naruto, said the Sandaime, as he felt blood leaking from his mouth, and crawling towards the boy looking up at the cold glowing eyes Apocalypse had staring back. No. You're not sorry, Sarutobi. Not yet, said Apocalypse, as he had the 3 metal claws from each hand extend out, and the bloodlust the young boy increased greatly. The next time anyone came into the Hokage's office, they would see chunks of flesh and blood scattered all over with the word vengeance written behind the desk right on the wall, with the blood that fell under it staining all the pictures of the previous Hokages. Hospital. 3 hours later, Apocalypse appeared in via teleportation into his mother's hospital room, as he saw his mother looking better, but far from fully recovered, and still needed rest. However, if there was one thing that the young boy knew was if someone had a weakness, and it was in the hands of the enemy, they would use it against you. His mother was indeed a temporary weakness, as Apocalypse could not risk the woman being hurt because of him, and the boy knew that arrogant fools in Leaf currently still in power knew this too. Is she ready? Said Apocalypse, as he turned his head to Tsunade, and saw his long-lost godmother looking back at him with worry. Barely. If we do this, then we have to take this slow. No teleportation, and why are you covered in blood? Said Tsunade, as she noticed the boy was covered heavily in the stuff, and practically froze at the sight. The Sandaime Hokage of the Leaf is no longer among the living, said Apocalypse, as he saw Tsunade's eyes widened at that, and Shizune gasped at those words. You killed him? Said Shizune, as she was surprised that the old Hokage was dead, since the man was a trained shinobi, and was not about to be killed easily. His debts to me needed to be paid in full, said Apocalypse, as he looked at Tsunade, who carefully picked Kushina, and saw Shizune helping her bring the woman closer to the metal orb still in what was once a wall. Go slowly, Naruto, said Tsunade, as she got into the orb with a nervous Shizune, and the orb closed around them before Apocalypse levitated easily it off the ground with his magnetic powers. Naruto. Wait, said Minato, as he entered the room, and saw his son about to depart from the hospital with Kushina. No time. My mother's health matters more to me than anything else right now. I leave you to live in this village that scorned me and to deal with the arrogant people while finding those worthy of being spared the Leaf's fall, said Apocalypse, as he moved the orb out of the wall, and took off into the sky with it. And to think, my son is just getting started, thought Minato, as he closed his eyes, and sighed heavily while wondering what else Naruto had planned. Apocalypse's lair. Some time later. He's here, said Tuya, as she saw him enter the large circular hallway that branched out to different areas underground, and showed the metal orb containing its occupants. Once everyone came into the main area, Apocalypse made the orb melt under the power of his magnetism, and revealed 3 women that were held within it. Tenten immediately had a brief fangirl moment, as her idol was now standing before her, and shouted out who she was. Everyone, this is Senju Tsunade, as Tenten easily pointed out, Tsunade's own student Shizune, and the red-haired woman is my mother. Uzumaki Kushina, said Apocalypse, as he heard them gasp since they had no idea his mother still lived, and the adults had been told she had died. Where was she? Said Shino, as he saw some of the wounds, and they looked to be quite pretty serious. My mother was abducted shortly after I was born and then tortured since that day in an underground base run by Danzo, said Apocalypse, as he heard more gasps, and saw some of the adults stiffen at that news since they knew Danzo was a man who had no form of honor in his aged body. Will she live? Said Ino, as she saw the woman looked like she was on her last leg, and wondered why the boy moved her from the Leaf so soon. Yes. My godmother will make sure of it, said Apocalypse, as he left the shocked group behind, and could hear Tsunade asking them to help. Why didn't you kill Danzo after you killed the Sandaime? You could have done it easily back in Konoha, said QB, as he saw the plan that his vessel made, but still had a hard time seeing some pieces to the puzzle. I have several more individuals to collect from the Leaf that cannot yet leave due to their own fears from those still in power. Why force them to leave when all my enemies will make them do it for me? The people will need a place to go, and by that time I will have the means to forge my own sanctuary that will rise above the hell the rest of the world made on their own, thought Apocalypse, as he knew people in the Leaf couldn't risk leaving without being hunted down by Root Shinobi, and it would take planning to make sure Root Shinobi didn't find out. Besides, he had other shinobi villages to visit while that happened, and there was also the means of taking another step in his plan to the next level. Konoha Council's meeting room. What? The Uchiha can't be dead, said Homura, as he was outraged by this news, and slammed his fist on the table to prove it. He is. Someone injected him with a powerful toxin I've never seen before and destroyed Uchiha Sasuke within minutes of injection into his system. I've tried to get a sample of it to study, but it's fast-acting, and leaves no trace of itself once it's finished. Even getting the necessary samples off the Uchiha for future procreation usage was futile, as the boy's reproductive system was destroyed, and his seed became useless. The Sharingan eyes were liquidated before we could extract them from Sasuke, and that means only Itachi is left now, said Danzo, as the people in the room flinched at the news, and wished they had a way to call back the Rouge Uchiha to begin the means to revive the clan. Do we know who did this? Said Koharu, as she saw Danzo shake his head no, and the old woman's scowl deepened. Even worse, the Sandaime has also been slain, and leaves the village leaderless since the Yondaime refuses to take up his mantle again. The nerve of him, said the whiny Haruno councilwoman, as she would have given the man an earful if it wasn't for the fact that the man would sooner hit her all the way to Suna than listen to a second of the screeching she would unleash. Jiraiya is still in the village, but for how long, I do not know, and could already be out of the village soon enough if we don't keep track of him, said Homura, as the only defense they had left to keep the village's enemies back was the Toad Sanin, but even then the man had no reason to stay in the leaf anymore since his old student hated him so much. As long as Minato stays within the leaf, so will Jiraiya unless the Yondaime asks him to do something outside of the village, said Danzo, as he knew the Sanin was going to do everything in his power to make things up to his student, and could be used in some way to their advantage. What about those root shinobi you sent to find the demon boy? Did they return? Said Koharu, as she wanted that boy dead, and buried before she danced on his grave. No. I've come to the belief that they died at the boy's hands, which would explain how he found out his mother is still alive, and freed her, said Danzo, as he heard gasps from the group since they suspected the woman was alive, but kept silent about it since such knowledge could get them in trouble if it was discovered they knew the truth. Damn it. If we got a hold of her first, we could have used the bitch to keep the monster here to bend to our might, and make him do what we want, said Homura, as he had long supported Danzo's plans to take over the shinobi villages, and tried to get the boy into the Root program if it weren't for the fact that Root was officially disbanded, so there was no official place for the boy to be turned. I agree. However, for the moment, we must stop fighting the demon boy since we are clearly losing the battle, and refocus our resources internally before we can fight him again, said Danzo, as he got agreements from the others, and they began to scheme once more on how to make the leaf stronger than ever. Namikaze Estates at the moment, Minato sat in his favorite chair in the living area of his home sipping sake silently, as he looked at the house he had originally hoped to raise his family, and, if Kami willing to let him, live long enough to be a grandfather. Now that hope was partially lost to him, as he would no doubt live long enough, but only to see his son burn everything to the ground, and raise a new world from the ashes. Jiraiya had told him about the Child of Prophesy and how it was supposed to be a student of his that would either make or break all of the shinobi villages. Then of course, there was Minato's own student Kakashi, who had been neglectful of his guarding duties for his son due to private reasons from what the Sandaime had written down at one point, and made the Namikaze frown. Those two words were used during some of the most brutal attacks on his son, and Minato suspected it was Kakashi who sold out his son during those times. Which was why Minato was waiting for his failure of a student to come into his home to explain what those private reasons were to him. Even for something as important as this, you would arrive here late, said Minato, as he looked to the corner of the wall, and saw his student come out of it not looking him in the eye. I had to, said Kakashi, as he couldn't lie to his old sensei, and saw the man glare at him to shut up. Don't bother making up excuses. You're not Obito, so don't act like him, said Minato, as he saw Kakashi look down in shame, and his temper was slowly rising. Sorry Minato-sensei, said Kakashi, as he saw down in a chair opposite of Minato, and saw the man was not looking very unhappy. Sorry for what exactly? Your lame excuses, or the fact you left my son to suffer for your private reasons, as you so nicely put it, after failing to guard him? Said Minato, as he saw Kakashi not meeting him in the eyes, and a flash of killer intent snapped the one-eyed Jounen's eye back towards him once more. After you died, I couldn't take the fact the fox lived within Naruto, and I thought that the people deserved to have their revenge, said Kakashi, as he saw Minato now looking very upset with him, and wondered what his old sensei would do to him. Why? Didn't you understand that my son should have been seen as a hero? Didn't you know or even suspect that Naruto was my son? Said Minato, as he couldn't believe that Kakashi was so blind to this fact, and saw his student become conflicted. You once told me when I was still a Genin that I would be the son you always wanted, and I was happy with the fact you became my surrogate father after I lost my own. Then that woman came into our realm of happiness, as you spent all of your time with her, and then finding out that she was pregnant with your child by blood infuriated me. How could you have a child when I was supposed to be the only child you could ever want? Every time I saw your son, I saw something in my mind that shouldn't exist, even more so than when the fox was sealed inside of him. And I hated your son for being your legacy when I felt it should have been me, said Kakashi, as he saw Minato narrow his eyes at him, and felt the spike of killer intent from the Namikaze. It was you, wasn't it? The one that helped Danzo take Kushina away and fake her death, said Minato, as he paid attention to Kakashi's words, and it was then that the man had felt something click inside his head at his student's words. "S-sensei?" said Kakashi, as he saw Minato rise from his chair, and look at him with cold eyes that had not been this way since Iwa. Only a handful of people knew where Kushina was when at the hospital giving birth to our child, and each of them understood the need for secrecy. I know Rin never betrayed my trust since she was on the front lines. Jiraiya I know said nothing, and the Sandaime was with us out by the battlefield while Tsunade was busy healing the injured. The only one left was you. You sold out my wife to Danzo after I left with Naruto. You were the only one guarding her room, said Minato, as he saw his student shake in fear, and the Cyclops had good reason to since he was about to die. "S-sensei please, don't kill me," said Kakashi, as he felt the shadows of death looming over him, and the Shinigami seemed to be hovering behind his sensei. How many times did my real son beg for mercy, but no one heard his pleas, and instead the people did what they wanted. Karma is not something to be taken lightly, Kakashi. I should know from my own experience, said Minato, as he unleashed all his fury on his now former student, and scattered his remains throughout the entire room. When it was over, Minato looked at the carnage he had created, and closed his eyes while letting out a sigh of either defeat or exhaustion, he wasn't sure. All Minato did know was that he couldn't stand Konoha anymore and needed to get away from it. Problem is my son wants me to stay. He wants me to feel guilty too, and it's working no doubt the way he wanted, thought Minato, as he sat down in his chair again, and not caring for the fact it was covered in the blood of his former student. As far as Minato was concerned, all his students were dead, and so would the majority of the Leaf when the time came. With Apocalypse, the young boy smiled down at his mother, as he ran a hand through her hair, and letting the woman know he was here with her through a telepathic link. They were catching up for lost time, as they talked in within her mind, and all that had happened over the years. Kushina told him about her life before everything went bad with Kyuubi and how she wished that things had not turned out as they did with Minato sealing the fox and their only son. Soon, mother. Soon you will be awakened and we can be a family like we should have been years ago, thought Apocalypse, as he wore a new dark crimson uniform, but without the cape, and the helmet since there was no need for it right now. Apocalypse-sama, you summoned me? Said Haku, as she entered the room to see the boy watching over his recovering mother, and blushed at the way he seemed to be an entirely different person in the process. Yes. Inform everyone that I have an important announcement to make and need to speak to everyone in the living area, said Apocalypse, as he kissed his mother's forehead, and walked out of the room with Haku wishing to be kissed like that before shaking her head to remove those thoughts since the boy could pick up on them. I shouldn't be thinking this. He is my master, I am his tool, and a tool cannot feel things for its master, thought Haku, as she walked out of the room to carry out her duties, and inform the others. Living area sometime later, what did you want to tell us, Naruto? Said Tsunade, as she saw the boy frown at her for using his previous name, and made a mental note to try using the other one when around others. First, I want to say that for the first time in a very long time, I feel a sense of happiness within me now that my mother is here, and I wish to thank you, my godmother, in making that possible. Second, I asked you all here today in order to inform you of a plan to take those of you with bloodlines to the next stage of human evolution, and evolve each of your bloodlines to their fullest potential, said Apocalypse, as he saw them look back at him like he was crazy, and he would have laughed at their faces if this wasn't such an important event. Evolve? How? Said Ino, as she never thought her bloodline could go any higher, and then she realized that her clan abilities were not that far off from the Namikaze's own mental powers. That is my little secret. Each one of you has some kind of ability that makes you unique that when taken to the next level will be unmatched, said Apocalypse, as he saw some of them looking nervous at the thought of evolving beyond anything the world would ever know. Are you sure, Naruto-kun? Said Hinata, as she saw the boy nod his head, and she was finding it hard not to blush in front of him. Quite sure, Hinata-chan. To prove I am speaking the truth, I am going to ask for one of you to volunteer for this, and show the others the end result, said Apocalypse, as he had taken his predecessor's own ways to become more evolved, and decided to use it on them for his new sanctuary. I will volunteer, Apocalypse-sama, said Haku, as she saw this as her chance to prove her worth to the boy that set her free, and show her master's intentions were pure. Very well. Remember, this chance to evolve your bloodline and abilities is a matter of choice for you. Whether you decide to do this or not is entirely up to you, and I will not have it forced upon your person if refused, said Apocalypse, as he motioned for Haku to follow him, and she obeyed without question. I wonder what Haku will look like when she comes back evolved? Maybe I should give it a try, said Choji, as he was munching on his chips, and made the others think about it too. It would be interesting. Maybe I'll have big jugs like Tsunade here, said Anko, as she saw the males get nosebleeds, and Kurenai smacking her on the back of the head for now turning them into perverts while the other girls, exception being Hinata, beat up the guys. Hinata was looking over where her crush had gone with the girl and snuck away to see the process for herself. The evolution chamber, from what the Namikaze could learn from his predecessor, the human body could adapt to nearly anything thrown at it, which was proven by the fact that Kyuubi was being held inside his body, and was able to survive his own transformation process. All of the means that the first apocalypse used to transform the boy formerly known as Naruto was all in this room after being moved from the secret location in the leaf to here in Wave. This way to evolve my bloodline won't hurt me too much, right Apocalypse-sama? Said Haku, as she was a bit fearful, and was held down by restraints on a table with a strange device hanging over her. I won't lie to you, Haku-chan. From what I learned of my predecessor, this will hurt to a degree because we are causing your body to evolve, and I do not wish to cause you such pain for all the trust you have given me, said Apocalypse, as he moved over to her, and stroked the girl's cheek affectionately while seeing the slightly frightened girl muster up what courage she could. I can endure it for you, Apocalypse-sama. I am your tool. Transform me into whatever your heart desires, said Haku, as she could sense the sincerity in his voice, how he didn't want to intentionally cause her pain, and how he was sorry for the pain that was to come. Very well. Brace yourself, said Apocalypse, as he didn't take pleasure in this, and had wished there was a way for him to do this without the pain to cause the evolution. Hopefully, the pain will be minimal, and she wouldn't scream so much. Before activating the machine, however, Apocalypse turned to the door, and saw Hinata peeking into the room before letting out an eep. When he pulled her towards him, the poor girl was now looking nervously at him, as Hinata felt like she was a child being caught doing something bad by the parent. Hinata-chan, you've been a very bad girl spying on me, and Haku for that matter, said Apocalypse, as he cupped her chin with his hand so she would look at him, and felt the poor girl was ready to faint soon from the close proximity. I'm sorry, and Naruto-kun. I was curious. I will leave now, said Hinata, as she began to leave, but was once more turned around by Apocalypse's psychic powers, and faced the boy once more. What if I don't want you to leave? Said Apocalypse, as he smiled down at the girl, and saw her eyes widen considerably. Why you don't? Said Hinata, as she felt her face heat up, and wondered if one of those dreams she had would come true. No. I need you to see this through to the end. As I told Haku, this will be painful for her, and she will need your support along with mine, said Apocalypse, as he had her stand beside him, and then activated the controls for the machine above Haku to work. I must do this. I must prove I am strong like Naruto-kun, thought Hinata, as she still had a hard time calling him by his second name, and hoped he understood her position on the matter. Several hours later, the group wondered with curiosity and worry at what had become of Haku being the first of, possibly, many soon-to-be evolved individuals to cross his path. At the time, they also noticed Hinata was not among them, and tried to find her to no luck with Kurenai fearing the worst. We should have gone looking for Hinata, said Kurenai, as she felt concern for the poor girl, and swore to destroy the Namikaze boy if he hurt her in some way. I doubt Naruto would do anything to her. From what I remember, the girl had a wicked crush on the boy, and he doesn't seem to treat her like an enemy, said Ino, as she had some distinct memory of the shy girl wanting to prove herself to the former blonde. Be that as it may, we may have to look for Hinata-san, and rescue her from any dangers this place may have, said Lee, as they had been kept away from certain rooms by Haku, who told them they were private areas for Apocalypse, and to never go into those rooms without his permission. No need. She's right here, said Apocalypse, as he walked into the main area with Hinata beside him, and then next to the other side of him was Haku, completely the same. Hey! I thought you said Haku would be evolved? Said Anko, as she saw nothing new about the girl, and wondered if she'd chickened out in the end. Oh really? Haku, show her what your evolved bloodline can now do, said Apocalypse, as he motioned for Haku to show them, and the said girl smiled. Yes, Apocalypse-sama, said Haku, as she let out a cool breath from her mouth, and had shocked everyone when she turned her shin a cold icy blue that gave the girl quite the exotic look with her hair having an icy shine to it. That's not all Haku's evolution can do, said Apocalypse, as he moved a small ball of metal in front of Haku, and the girl touched it with the object instantly being frozen. Impressive, said Shino, as he saw that Haku's powers had indeed evolved from what he was seeing right now, and was curious about what Apocalypse could do for him. Yes it is. As I mentioned earlier, each one of you will be changed into something that best reflects your skills, or your bloodlines for those that have them. Choji, I won't lie to you when I say your issue in being large will no doubt be a part of your evolution. and if you want to leave yourself the way you are I will understand, said Apocalypse, as he felt that not everyone needed to evolve themselves, and that not all bloodlines should go through the entire evolution process if it was unnecessary. Thanks Naruto. For the record, I'm glad you stuck up for me when we were kids, and played with me back then with Shikamaru, said Choji, as he suspected his bloodline involving him being large would be the part that evolved, and was glad that his old friend was taking that into account his feelings regarding that. My predecessor may have forged me to be the new Apocalypse, but that doesn't mean I have to follow the same lonely violent path he did, and force people into servitude when they could be my friends, even loved ones, thought Apocalypse, as he looked towards Hinata, who was smiling at him, and he could sense that she really cared about him just like Haku. Perhaps it was time to do more than just prepare for a sanctuary for those like him. Perhaps it was also time to consider having his own family. And with the funds in his possession, the Namikaze boy knew exactly what to get with it, and was going to shock everyone when it was unveiled to the world. Omake Lee's evolutionary mistake. Lee felt happier than he ever thought possible, as he moved around at incredible speed, and thanked Apocalypse for this newfound evolution done to his body that would soon be useful with his taijutsu. He zoomed around everyone now seeing his evolution that was connected to his speed, which wasn't really a surprise since the boy wore several tons worth of weight, and could move at speeds that could make a cheetah look like a snail. That and he loved his new silver hair. Wow! He can really move fast, said Ino, as she sees her friends nod, and then feels like there is in a draft in the room. Then she hears Anko trying to hold back her laughter, Kurenai looking shocked, and Hinata was blushing a shade of red before looking away. I didn't know you went commando Ino, said Anko, as she saw Kurenai glare at her, and Ino looking down before screeching while covering herself up with Tuya laughing on the ground. Where are my fucking clothes? Yelled Ino, as she saw the boys all getting nosebleeds, and Kurenai putting a genjutsu over Ino's private so only the bandages were seeable. Oops, said Lee, as he had been so excited he had stretched out his hand, and accidentally taken Ino's clothes. You pervert. Come back here and give me my fucking clothes, yelled Ino, as she chased after Lee, and the now scared super fast runner did what he could do best right now with Ino surprisingly not far behind him. What do you think Ino's evolved ability is? Said Choji, as he saw Shikamaru think for a second, and knew that was a good question. I don't know, but I hope it's not that troublesome voice box of hers, said Shikamaru, as he saw Lee running around while being chased by an upset Ino, and crying out apologies for tearing off her clothes. And Omake.